What's going on, everybody? It's me, Ryan, your host of the Classic Buffalo Podcast, the podcast that interviews everyday people on their stories surrounding mental health. And today we've got another one for you. We're interviewing someone named Kai. They go by Kai anyway. But this one's like jam-packed. We're talking about transgender issues. We talk about somebody coming out of the closet, coming into their gender identity, coming into their sexual identity. The whole transgender issue has always been kind of confusing but I've always been curious how to interact with someone and how to best support someone. Maybe if someone has a family member or, best friend who's transgender or any form. I don't know. I always love interacting with people from the LGBTQ community because in my past, it's always been I've been surrounded by difficult people, and then I've had questions and confusion as to what pronouns to use, how do you interact, what do you say, what things not to talk about, all sorts of things, and we kind of get into that in today's episode. So it's kind of a cool, revealing episode, and we got to share Kai's story, talk a little bit about their journey and the things that they've gone through, how they made their decisions, how they came to where they're at today, and we talk a little bit about their blog, Kind Humans, and where they interview some people in the LGBTQ community who are also a part of the Christian community. So a lot of really cool and possibly controversial, not really, subject matter, and I'm excited for you guys to listen to it. So without further ado, let's get to episode 49 with Kai. Morning, everybody. It's me, Ryan, joining me today in my house while it's snowing. We're filming Frozen 3 outside. We have Kai. They are a musician, a wonderful person, blogger, sort of, sometimes, inspirational contenter. Welcome.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
So you do a lot of different things, and if you kind of notice, I did some pronoun work, which I wanted to talk a little bit, is that you refer to yourself as like they, them. Is that correct?
That is correct, yeah.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
I want to cover that in your story, and so let's back up a little bit. We'll kind of get to how you got there and all that kind of stuff. So day one, you have emerged.
Yes.
Is Kai your real name? Because Kai's really cool.
Kai is a chosen name.
Okay.
It's not my legal name right now.
Yeah.
I chose Kai just because it has a lot of different interpretations from like language to language. I think one interpretation means earth, ocean, and then willow tree, I think, is one. I'm not 100% sure. But all of those interpretations really kind of feel like me. It just felt right.
Yeah. What's the legal process like for that? Like, are you trying to like...
Oh man, I'm figuring it out right now. Yeah. There are a lot of resources in Indianapolis and to receive help with paperwork and all that sort of thing. I know changing your gender marker to like X, I believe that's legal now. Okay. In Indiana, I believe so.
So what does that mean?
It just means that instead of male or female, M or F, it'll be an X. So when people check my ID, it'll
Yeah, is that non-binary? Is that what
mm-hmm,
okay.
Yeah.
Let's talk about how you got to realize that you were maybe a little bit different, or you kind of sensed that something was a little bit off, and I'm not male, or I'm not female, or mm-hmm. I'm not like, what has that journey been like? Kind of like, can you give some logistical like...
Yeah. So first of all, it was a long journey.
Okay.
It was a long journey. I can remember being in middle school and high school, and just feeling like I just was not like my sister. So my sister is like this very tall, athletic, track running, full scholarship to, college for track, and just a very beautiful person, physically, on the inside as well. But, but growing up next to this person, who just really embodied all the perfect, stereotypically feminine traits that, you know, women are supposed to have. I felt like I just didn't have I didn't have any of that.
Yeah.
I felt like I didn't really fit into that role. So that's kind of when it started. I just kind of realized that I wasn't like my sister. I didn't feel the same.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like I was able to like play that role in the way that maybe she was able to do, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I remember I found the term androgynous in a magazine, like 17 magazine or something, and I was so intrigued by it, and I was like, oh my god, like what does this mean? Like this is what I am. I was like, this is what I feel like I am.
Oh yeah.
And so just that's kind of like what I clung to a little bit, and then I identified as straight for as long up to like my sophomore year of college. And I was with a guy for 3 years, and I'm pretty sure he almost proposed to me at one point, and I stopped him, and I was like questioning my sexuality and my gender and all these sorts of things. So it all happened kind of, it's really messy. It's kind of hard to put it in a timeline.
Yeah, no, you're good. Like, are those usually at the same time, both your sexuality and your gender, like both at the same time? Like, for example, and correct me if I'm wrong, but like with Caitlyn Jenner, still attracted to women, but also wanted to gender switch to a woman, like to be transgender woman, correct?
Yes.
Maybe?
I'm not 100% familiar with Caitlyn Jenner. Caitlyn Jenner says a lot of things that I don't agree with.
Okay.
She is her own person, and I respect her as a trans woman.
First question, right off we're making it as basic questions as possible.
Yeah.
So if you are a transgender man or woman, you were before the opposite. So like, let's say Caitlyn Jenner is a transgender woman.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
So, well, are you, there's a lot of argument about technicality with like, and people get offended, and I completely understand that. And that's because they want to be seen, or they want to be understood as being like completely valid. So like, if you have, let's say like top or bottom surgery, and you were F to M.
Yeah.
So you're female to male.
Yeah.
Before you had, let's say, bottom surgery, you were still male. Like having male genitalia does not mean that you are like genitals don't equal your gender. Does that make sense?
Which is kind of the whole argument for it.
Yeah.
Saying that I identify as a woman or a man, but I might not have the genitalia to match it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Have you ever like considered like switching genders?
So I allowed myself to start questioning my gender.
Yeah.
What was it? Summer of 2017.
Okay.
So recent. Oh my god, yeah. All of this is so recent. It just was always like this little like nagging just feeling that like there's something you're not exploring. Like why are you keeping yourself in a box? Why are you acting like this is something that you want to explore when it really is? I think like I'll come right out and say that I had a lot of like internalized transphobia, like, and not towards other people at all, but just for myself. Like I just knew that like family was not going to accept, you know, any sort of like different gender that I wasn't born as, which is a really, really hard thing to, you know, to realize and go through. And so I had already come out as, you know, being a lesbian, and my family wasn't accepting about that. And I was like, you know, one more thing, don't add one more thing, one more reason.
Okay, so you came out like as lesbian first.
Yes, I did. Yeah,
it wasn't just like all at once.
Yeah.
It was okay. So you're all right.
Yeah. So I guess I can give the timeline by that. My coming out.
Yeah,
I can
you're
do
good.
that.
Yeah.
So yeah, in summer of 2015, June or July, I came out as a lesbian, and then that was good for 2015, 16, 17, up and for like 2 years. Yeah. And then I started questioning my gender identity in like 2017.
Right. So being non-binary, I'm just going to say advantage, but like what do you think by saying I am non-binary, what does that allow you to yourself to like, is it what you say, the way you talk? Is it like, what does it actually affect? Like, what makes you make that choice to say, I am non-binary? Like, what makes you say that?
I have always been who I am. Like, I like the things that I like. the type of music I like. It's just being non-binary allows me to just feel the most authentic, and not be, expected to, I don't know, have a certain type of body, or, allow people to expect my sexuality to be one thing or another. It just felt right. Like, in the way, like, if I was like, oh, like, Ryan, like, she, does this, like, misgendering you like that, like, it's, it just feels wrong, right?
Yeah, it feels weird.
Yeah, it feels weird. So that feeling, every single time I would put on a dress, it was that feeling. Every single time I would be expected to, like, I've never wanted to have a baby physically. That's never something that I've wanted to do. And for stereotypically, like, that's something that women are expected, or, people hope that, they do that. And that's not something I ever wanted people to expect of me. But just certain things like that. Like, I've always been who I am. And then applying the term non-binary just allows people to not have, like, preconceived notions about what to expect of me. Does that make sense?
Yeah. You can dress however you want. You can say whatever you want. You can change your pronouns if you want. Yeah. That kind of stuff. Or, well, let me correct myself. What are pronouns that are very common throughout, like, so be like he, she? What is they, them specifically for non-binary? Or is it just you can choose, like, for example, can you be, like, male but still do non-binary pronoun? Like, how does that all work?
What I like to tell people is, I mean, we are human. We are each unique. So if someone wants to identify as male and then wear dresses, they 100% can do that.
All right.
And if they want to identify as female and, and wear suits and things like that, like, that's 100% valid. Right. And then so it gets kind of messy, because then we're also getting into, well, are you saying that, women shouldn't wear suits, or, men shouldn't wear dresses, or things like that. So, like, just a disclaimer, I would just like to say, people can be whoever they want to be. Yeah. And people can do whatever they want to do, with their own identity. And I think it's beautiful and wonderful. I think that we should be the most authentic that we can be. I think that just creates a really wonderful space for connection, and safety. And I don't think that anyone should ever be forced into a box that they don't want to exist in, or that they didn't create for themselves. Yeah. I think that's really what the term non-binary allows me to do, is to just feel the most authentic within myself and with other people. And that's my wish for everybody for sure. in the world, and within their own heads and their hearts.
It would just be so easy to just call you by your name, or to have one pronoun for just everything.
I mean,
then it wouldn't have a gender attached to the word. That's probably not just an English language thing either. Like, I haven't really had very many people in my life in the LGBTQ community. I've had a few, but no one who's been very close with me. So it's been a lot of times for me having to observe from afar, or to be a supporter of that, but not necessarily like very like, oh, my sister is transgender, or like my brother is gay, like my uncle is gay. And that was kind of an interesting kind of dynamic, but I wasn't really ever close with him. Still not really, but not because of his sexuality, which growing up in the church, which we're going to talk a little bit about, being Christian in the LGBTQ community, which you're a part of that, correct? Like, non-binary is a part of that. Yeah. Okay. Is there an NB in there, or is it like
NB? Oh gosh.
Or where does it fall in the alphabet, I guess?
God, the alphabet soup of the LGBTQIA plus.
Oh, the plus.
Okay. I believe it's covered in the plus. I know there's like an NBE something. I can't remember. But it's an alphabet soup, and everybody's included. But non-binary is definitely under that umbrella.
Well, yeah. So let's talk about kind of first your family. Like, what was it like, the support, and kind of even just questioning and then actually coming out? Like, have you been completely shunned, or has it been like somewhere in the middle, or like they loved you from day one and they're gonna like, how has that been?
So I grew up in Indianapolis. Okay. And we kind of moved around a little bit, but my like first memory of just like not being the same as everybody else, and again, I think I kind of tucked it away a little bit, because it was like I was having feelings, didn't know what it was. I was like, oh, this is a special thing. It's giving me butterflies. I'm just going to kick it into the back of the closet of my mind and my heart, kind of. Right. But I can remember being in preschool and like having crushes on like my preschool teacher. Like, and I still remember her name. Like I still remember what she looks like. Like in high school, I grew up in Danville, Indiana. So we had moved. It's like Avon.
West side. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Just a small town. But yeah, I went to high school and, you know, like I said before, I identified as straight. I had a boyfriend for like, you know, three years.
What was that like dating? Did you know, like kind of like, or you just, there's this thing that you're like, something's off?
So really, honestly, I don't understand how people realize that they're gay from such a young age. Like, and I honestly think it was, like, I had no idea that being gay was a thing. Like, I had no idea. I didn't even know, I didn't even know that people were gay. And so I think like, maybe we can like start with like, the church I grew up in was like a Mennonite church. It was not the bonnet wearing Mennonites, but just the we love peace and love and no war kind of Mennonites. There was just no talk of, you know, sex or any kind of education of that sort. So I didn't know what gay people were, what they looked like, and I certainly didn't know that I was one of them. I just started having crushes and in high school, and I didn't know what they were. And I kind of explained it to people as like maybe like learning your colors wrong. So like I thought that what I felt for men was, you know, like love and crushes and things like that, and what I felt for women was friendship. And so, you know, it's like my colors were switched. Like red was blue and blue was red. Kind of like that, yeah. So I didn't know. I had no idea what feelings were or butterflies were. Yeah, I just didn't understand. I was just like, wow, love is like really boring. And like friendship is awesome. Like, yeah, like.
Oh my God. That's so
and that's what it was like. I just didn't understand. And I remember like my boyfriend, he would drop me off, you know, at my college dorm, and he'd be like, you know, I'm gonna miss you so much, and I'm like, yeah, okay, bye, and then I would just be fine, you know. And so he would be like he was always very crushed and hurt by the fact that, you know, like my feelings weren't as deep as his, and I didn't really understand that until I got older. So in 2015, when I came out, just fast forward through all of that, my family was first of all shocked because I had just broken up with my boyfriend in the summer of 2015, and then I had come out, and they were just like, what? Like, you've been with this guy for 3 years, like we were kind of thinking you guys were gonna get married, and you know, like that didn't happen at all. Like, what is even what are you thinking? What's going on? They weren't accepting. So when I came out, I was living in Muncie, Indiana, and I was going to Ivy Tech there, and so my best friend just kind of encouraged me to move there to go to school. I was 22. I had moved to Chicago with my boyfriend, and then realized, oh my gosh, you're very gay. This is not going to work. And then my best friend said like, hey, like we're both pretty sure that you're gay. Like, come and live with me. Figure this out. You know, you can figure stuff out. You know, apart from this guy who's very in love with you. And so when I was in Muncie, I was like, oh, like this is, I'm going to come out, and I'm going to, you know, like date women, all this kind of stuff. And so over that summer, it was, talking to my mom about that over that summer was just, we screamed a lot for the first like couple weeks, and then we didn't talk at all for like about 3 months. I kind of like cut her out of my life because I was like, well, you're either going to accept this part of me, like I'm trying very hard to, or you're not going to be in my life at all. Like, I'm very much that type of person that's like, I want to know how you feel about me, and then if you're not on board with loving me 110%, you're not going to be in my life. I don't know if that's kind of cutthroat. It's a boundary that I have.
It's a form of self-care.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
You know? Where did your like first support come from?
Yeah, so when I first came out in 2015 as a lesbian, I wasn't talking to my family at all, really. And I was just looking for support. So there's a youth group in Muncie called Muncie Outreach.
Okay.
And I was too old to be part of the youth group. So I applied to be a mentor, which was the most amazing experience. I was just able to, just help youth that was going through the exact same thing that I was. I've always been like a really, I always say like the best way to help yourself is to help other people. Yeah. Like if you are going through something hard, just go out and help other people. So these kids were, were really like my saving grace. They were 100% like my family and the other volunteers there. And then the woman who runs Muncie Outreach, her name's Laura Gianni. So she's awesome and just a powerhouse of a woman. She's just like a second mom to me. She's wonderful. But yeah, that was my first experience with like the LGBTQIA community at all. Yeah.
I mean, like I said, we've just been talking about this is kind of still new. Like, how has dating kind of been like? Has it been? Have you seen an improvement in like I'm actually able to be myself with another like who I'm actually supposed to be with type of partner? Yeah,
100%. It was really crazy the understanding what feelings were. Like like just I didn't for like the first 3 years that I was dating somebody, I didn't have any feelings. So being able to actually understand those that box that I kicked in the back of my brain, the feelings that I was just like suppressing, I can actually bring them to the front of my brain and be like, oh my God, like this is the most important thing.
Yeah.
Like this is the thing that makes life good, and that this is what's going to make you happy, embracing that part of yourself. But yeah, being able to actually fall in love is a crazy thing. Because for so long, I remember thinking, wow, like God just didn't make you this way. God just didn't make you with the ability, or, God didn't make you with the intention to fall in love. So for a long time, I was like, well, it's either I'm going to be in this relationship that kind of doesn't feel very authentic, or I'm going to be like a nun, or I'm going to, like work for it. Yeah. I mean, that was a real thought in my brain. Yeah. That I was.
So faith has always been a part of your life though, like kind of since day one. Okay. Yeah. How's that like interacted with just come side to side? Cause some parts of Christianity aren't a fan of, being trans, being like gay, like being something other than just completely straight male to female. Like, have you had to kind of church shop / go through doubts of your faith, or I'm sure probably doubts of, you just tackled it with like, did God make a mistake here? Like just forgot a little component.
Yeah.
He nailed the personality and all that stuff, but the sexuality was completely, whoops, I messed that one up. Or, but like, how is church shopping / did people know, like kind of how has that been?
It's kind of ironic. When I was straight, I air quotes with that.
Yeah.
I was the farthest away from spirituality and God that I've ever been in my entire life. And I really attribute that like to me just being inauthentic with who I was, because I was just not loving myself, and I was not embracing the parts of myself that are the most beautiful and the most deep. So when I got out of that relationship, like, I wanted to get my spirituality back, even though there was, like this oxymoron of identity that was, happening in my life. I so deeply wanted to be in relationship with God and have my spirituality back, because that was a really big part of my life. When I was in Muncie and I had just come out, and, like I didn't have any family support, and my friends were, it was just, like my roommate, my one friend that I had from high school who said, come live with me and figure all this out. I went to a couple different churches, and beforehand I made sure that they were all affirming churches. When you're church shopping, you kind of have to be careful, because sometimes people will say, oh, we're accepting. So that can be, we believe that you are perfectly made by God, and that being gay or being trans or however you identify is not wrong. It's not bad. God made you this way, but acting on it is wrong. So like, getting gender affirming surgeries is a sin against God. Having a same-sex relationship is against God.
So like you just practicing.
Practicing homosexual. Exactly. So there are some churches that are accepting like that, and then there are some churches that are affirming of same-sex relationships, of your trans identity. So you kind of have to be careful. And it's I haven't ever gotten my heart broken by a church just simply because I've been so careful. Every single church that I've ever gone to has had a gay pastor. Like the church that I go to right now has a gay pastor. I mean, not that matters necessarily, but just that.
I'll tell you that. It doesn't hurt.
It definitely doesn't hurt. Yeah, it definitely doesn't hurt. I'm just saying, it's not to say that like
Yep.
someone who is heterosexual can't like be accepting and be a pastor. I've been really blessed with that. That I have really found church homes that were pretty safe and pretty wonderful to me.
Yeah.
Some luck, and then also just being very careful.
So what do you do like on a day-to-day basis? Like what's your main gig? I know we'll talk about music a little bit because you do make music, but like what's the setup? 9 to 5? Like what do you do?
9 to 5. I've actually never had a 9 to 5 job before.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I currently just started full-time for a 9 to 5 gig.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like foreign and a little bit scary to me. But so day to day, I work 9:30 to 3:30 at a place called Outside the Box. So it's a day facility for mentally and physically disabled individuals. So I get to do, it's such rewarding work. Like I cannot even explain. It's amazing.
Is there any story you can share with legally?
Yeah, I was in a relationship August to like November, and it was really wonderful. And it was like I had not fallen in love like that for like 5 years, a really long time.
Right.
I was like head over heels for this girl.
Yeah, pretty much the first time
Yeah. The relationship just ended. She just, I guess, wasn't having the same feelings as me, which is like completely fine. But I was really going through it, and I was like, it was like the couple days after, and I had to go to work, and I was like, man, this just sucks. So one of my participants, we don't call them clients, we call them participants. So one of my participants just kind of like sensed that I was having a bad day. And so every Monday and Friday we have something called dance party, and it's literally a dance party.
That's awesome.
We just have a huge room. It's called the community room. We have a community room where like 6 different groups will just like come in, and each group has like 8 people in it, and we just dance. We just play music videos over this big TV, and we just like have a party, and it's amazing. So Dean just like recognized that I was having like a really hard day, and he just comes up to me. And he was like, can I have this dance? And it was freaking, I'm not joking you, My Heart Will Not Go On, or what is that Titanic song?
Yeah.
That song. And so I was just like, oh my God, is this happening? Like I literally looked up to like the sky, and I was like, are you doing this to me, God? Are you really like, I'm gonna like break down in front of all these people? And so we just danced, and he just held on to me, and was like on like just like my hand like in his hand and his hand on like the the small of my back, and he was just so sweet and just wonderful. And he was like, I hope you have an okay day. And I was like, wow, what is my life?
Right.
Yeah.
Man, that's cool.
It was pretty cool.
What are you passionate about?
I love music, the music that I make. I love the work that I do at Outside the Box at OTB. I'm passionate about my spirituality. I love my dog, Micah.
What kind of dog is it?
She's German Shepherd mixed with Lab. She's super
nice.
Sweet. Yeah, she's cute. She's cool. I do something called Kind Humans. I tell the stories of LGBTQIA plus individuals of faith. And so that, and I say individuals of faith because I believe that spirituality is like, it's such a mystery, and it's such like a broad spectrum of belief that I feel like I have no business like trying to put in a box again. So like I say individuals of faith just because I think everyone is valid.
I feel like you should get a box tattoo.
A box tattoo?
Yeah, just a box.
Just a box?
Because it's like you work for Out of the Box. And
yeah,
you're like,
right?
Very much,
outside the box.
very much box related life. Being outside
actually, what's really cool? I have been like trying to think of a logo for Kind Humans.
Ah, okay.
I'm gonna like put that.
A box.
Yeah, I'm
people
like,
coming out of a box.
Something like that. Well, I've been trying to think of a logo, so
yeah,
I will put that in the mix. Thank you.
Yeah. First one's free.
Yeah.
First idea is free.
First one's free. I love that.
What made you want to get into music, or kind of talk about beginning in music?
I started playing guitar, or I should say messing around on guitar, when my family was living in a shelter. There was a domestic issue. My father was abusive, and he was my mother and him. My mother and father divorced, and he was actually deported.
Wow.
So yeah, he's not in my family's life at all. He was a pretty awful guy. when the trial was going on for all of that, he was not in jail for a period of time. So we went to a shelter to sort of like seek refuge. And so we were there, and it was very close quarters. And I'm not necessarily introverted, but I like my alone time. I can see that. Yeah. I like time for introspection, and I do need some alone time. So what I would do is I would go into this walk-in closet that we had. It's just one closet in the room that we all shared. It was my two brothers, my sister, my mother, and me. And so my brother had like a little first act guitar in there. And so I just started like strumming around on it, and just that sort of evolved into teaching myself how to play guitar and learning how to express my emotions through writing and through music, and through dealing with everything. That's music is how I deal with everything. It's how I make sense of like really awful things happening in my life and to people who I love. It's a pretty important part of my life.
Yeah. Do you want to do it like full time, or do you do shows kind of?
Yeah, I do shows pretty frequently in Indianapolis. My time is kind of split between Kind Humans, my day job, and music right now. That's sort of like like you were asking, like the 9 to 5. Like that's kind of like what I do every day.
Right.
But yeah, I'm releasing an album this summer, and I released an EP last summer. So
what was it called? What's the one that's like? What are they both called? Like the one that you just got done, and what's you're doing coming up?
The one that I finished last summer was called The Gray Rehearse. So it was kind of like the rehearsal to like everything good that's going to happen. So it was about all of the stuff that we just talked about.
Ah,
yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So it was like The Gray Rehearse was like the really hard, dark rehearsal to like my actual like getting to actually be my authentic self life. Yeah.
So this new upcoming one must be like pretty good, like exciting, because this is the next chapter.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I'm kind of like catching you like right at the beginning of your life, like the next chapter of
it's exciting.
Discovering sexuality, your gender, like getting a new job, like doing music. Wow, I'm like catching you at a good time.
No, man, it's 2020 is the best year of my life. Like every single year, every single like next year is like the best year of my life. Yeah, it just keeps on getting better.
Do you feel like you're a pretty like optimistic person?
Oh yeah.
Have you always been that way?
I think so. Yeah. And I think that's where like the spirituality definitely comes in. Is like, you know, I believe that there's always purpose for the pain we're going through. I believe that there's always, not necessarily that bad things happen to teach us things, but that we can choose to assign meaning to things that happen to us and help other people through that. Like through what happens to us, we can help other people get through what's happening to them. And that's something that's pulled me out of like really dark places.
Right.
Yeah.
How does mental health fit into your life?
Yeah. Anxiety, lightly, not to the extent that some people in my life struggle with it, or I should say are overcoming it. But depression, yes. Not like a clinical diagnosis, but definitely, yes, bouts of depression. My friend Allie and I go back and forth on this a lot, that I am depressed or I'm not depressed or I this or that. And I've never gone to, you know, a licensed therapist to like diagnose something. I've always gone to like a practicum clinic. The people there aren't clinically necessarily professionally trained yet. Yeah. They're not licensed, so they can't diagnose me 100%. But yeah, I've definitely gone through really tough stuff and dealt with bouts of depression. Yeah.
How do you get out, or how did you get out?
That's like the realest question ever, isn't it? Like how do you get out of it? Is I don't think it's a get out necessarily. I think it's just taking one day at a time, trying really, really hard to be honest with yourself and with other people about how you're feeling, and just trying to be really kind and gentle to yourself. I think that mental health is something that's there's never a fix, you know what I mean? Like it's like the human condition is difficult to get through. Like to be alive is really hard. You know what I mean? And it's always going to be that way, you know? And I know that depression and anxiety and things like that are they're different than just being alive. You know what I mean? It's like an added thing on top of that. Though since I haven't like had really awful anxiety or been officially diagnosed with depression, I can't necessarily speak to, you know, what some people go through.
Well, let me ask you this question. When shit hits the fan, like what do you do? I
definitely reach out to friends. I'll ask people to pray for me. Really, honestly, I never really understood what prayer was for. Like, kind of, I would pray for things, like I would want things, or I would like, you know, or things like that when I was younger. But like, there's a lot of power in prayer and like coming together and, you know, like a group of more than 2 people and focusing on something and really putting intention towards it. Like it can really change how you feel. Like it's changed how I've felt. Maybe that's not, you know, to say everyone's experience, but it's been my experience. Yeah, definitely.
What do you do for other people when like your best friend or your friend's going through something?
Oh gosh, just be there. Just listen. There is like so much power in just being there physically, like just holding the space for someone, just being a body beside someone. If I can, there's like a book in the Bible. It's Job. And Job is like a really godly man. And in this story, the devil says, give me Job and like, let me test him. Like, I know that his faith will, you know, waver, when I make all these horrible things happen to him. Like, you know, he only loves you, God, because you've blessed him so richly. Right. And when that goes away, there will be like no loyalty there. And so God's like, okay, go ahead. He like takes away his wife and his family and his riches and all kinds of things. And the part that kind of pertains to like the story that, you know, like we were just telling was his friends were sort of like, you know, oh, like you must have sinned like horribly to have all these things happen to you. And we don't believe you that you're a godly man. You know, if you just repent and, you know, tell us what you did wrong, you can, you know, start to make up for, you know, what you've done. And he was just like, you know, no, I'm a godly man. I haven't done anything wrong. And so even though his friends were, you know, like maybe not 100% like believing of him, they sat with him for 3 days in silence. Just feel loved and feel okay. I'd love to see a millennial sit in silence for 3 days. Oh my God, right? Or just something. I feel like the equivalent would be like maybe 3 hours without technology. Right. Yeah. Yeah. But just like sitting with someone and just allowing them to either vent or cry, letting someone know that they're not alone. That's, I think, the best thing to do. If I'm a person that thinks that they're alone, what would you say to that person? Oh my gosh, you are so not alone. Like, so not alone. You may feel it, but you are not alone. Whether you're a spiritual person or not. Like, there are always people who want to see you and hear you. They may not be in your life right now, but they 110% exist. Something that like really helps me when I feel alone. I remind myself, maybe like 4 years ago, like where I was. And I think about all the people that are in my life right now. They were walking around the world at the same time that I was 4 years ago. We just didn't know each other yet. You know what I mean? So like sometimes just realizing that, you know, maybe in 3 months, I'm going to meet my best friend. That person is alive right now. Or like something that I think about, like my future partner. I don't know, like a year from now, me and my partner could be sitting down on our couch, like listening to this, right? You know, you know what I mean? Yeah, like just thinking about things like that. Like I have voice memos in my phone, like to my wife or like to my partner. And like, I'll just like tell them about things, or, you know, just remembering that like the moment right now is not going to be the same as your future. It's going to be better. You know, if you choose to take the steps to make it better. Somebody told me, do you know the Lorax? Yeah, that Dr. Seuss story. Right, yeah. I was like aware of the Lorax, but like wasn't aware of the story. That's a powerful story. I just remember there's just some orange thing. And supposedly that like the story goes, this is secondhand, so probably not accurate, but talking about how this entire forest gets destroyed and then comes across on these rocks that says unless, and the whole idea is that nothing is going to change unless we do something about it. Yeah. And like in depression and anxiety, you have like that, like, I can't, I don't know how, but we can, I guess, somehow. Yeah. And nothing probably will change. Like, it's probably, what is it, that, the law of conservation of matter? No, that's not right. The one of, attraction? Like, no, the one that like, yes. No. It's the one that like, if something's in motion, it will stay in motion. Or if it's stopped, it won't go until somebody puts it in motion. Oh, man. It's one of those like science laws. But I know what you're talking about.
somehow we have to take that and make it into like a powerful statement of like, unless we do something, which you can, things will change for the better, or they'll just be different, I guess. So not necessarily worse, but maybe different.
Yeah.
So you brought up your brother to me a little bit off camera a little bit. Can you kind of glean a little bit about his journey?
Yeah, my brother is an amazing human being. His name is Daniel. He's going through his own journey right now, which is pretty amazing. He's actually in prison right now. So he's just about to finish up his time there, and he's going into a drug recovery program for I think 3 years if he ultimately like decides and the judge signs off on everything, which fingers crossed that she does. I know bits and pieces of his story. I mean his story is his own life, and he has a lot more insight than I do. But my brother and I are how old is Daniel? Daniel is 22, I believe, right now. We're kind of both like the black sheep of our family. So Daniel also identifies as gay. And Daniel struggles with a lot of anxiety, a lot of depression, a lot of mental health. He has used opioids and pretty heavy-hitting drugs since high school. He just, I think, got in with the wrong crowd, you know what I mean? It kind of snowballed on him. He didn't really know how to deal with emotions, and mental health was not something that was really focused on in my family. Not putting blame upon anybody or anything like that, but yeah, I definitely do think that he got in with the wrong crowd, and he was just really struggling with some emotional and mental issues that we kind of believe definitely have to do with my father and things that happened with him. Yep. We're pretty close, like, up until he was arrested. He was actually arrested on my birthday, which was so crazy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it really, honestly, like, it was kind of more funny than it was, like, awful. Well, and it's, that sounds really awful. But yeah, he, like, I remember on a call when I had, like, called him to talk, he was like, yeah, I was arrested on your birthday. Like, can you believe that? Like, it was, yeah, he's just that kind of, like, funny guy.
Yeah,
like,
quirky.
Yeah.
Sort of.
He's definitely quirky. There's not much of a success story necessarily to tell. He's very much like on the upswing of, like coming from a really, really difficult situation within his own mental health. I'm really, really hoping that, through this recovery program that he will, be able to pull out a really, really awesome, cool story that, he's going to share with a whole bunch of people and change a lot of people's lives. And I really honestly do see that for him. I don't know if he sees that for himself, but I definitely see that in him. He's a really cool, smart, funny, awesome person, and I'm so proud to be his sibling. Like, so proud.
I did want to ask you for tips for someone who I'm thinking of hasn't come out yet. What was your advice to someone who hasn't come out yet that maybe has an inkling that they might be on the spectrum of, or part of the alphabet?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked that question. That's such a good question. Be gentle with yourself and just take a deep breath and just realize that it's okay to not feel like you're like everybody else, and to acknowledge and embrace and celebrate that. It's okay to question your gender identity. You don't have to hate yourself for not fitting in or for going against what your family thinks is the right way, or the Christian way or the godly way. You know what I mean? Like, and especially to individuals who are individuals of faith and they're questioning, like, God does not hate you. Like, 110%. Like, God made you beautifully and wonderfully and intentionally. There are people who want to see you and hear you authentically, 100%. So just don't doubt that you're loved, even if you don't feel loved right now.
I mean, do you openly share your story? Kind of like...
on the Kind Humans page, like way down, like I've shared my own story, but it didn't go into like the details that I'm sharing today, or those kinds of things. I feel so honored and just amazed at the resiliency of these people who, not only have overcome the things that they've overcome, but they want to share. They want to like spread hope and like tell people, that you are loved, look at me, like I did this and you can do this too. And, but yeah, I get messages a lot from people who are just like, oh my God, like this is what I've been looking for. Like, thank you for showing me, you know, not just like stories that people are, you know, surviving, but they're thriving. You know what I mean? And that's kind of like what the platform is. Like, I want parents of LGBT kids to, you know, look at this page and see people who are, you know, being successful, you know, with their mental health and with their identities and careers even, like that, you know, they're able to find success and happiness. Because that was one of the things that my mom was like the most afraid of when I came out. She was like, I just don't want life to be hard for you and, you know, uncomfortable. I don't want you to be hurt. So yeah, the Kind Humans was sort of like, you know, my hopeful attempt at creating a space that people could view, you know, thriving LGBTQIA people. Yeah.
Could you share like a short story of one of those, or kind of like something cool that's happened through that?
Kind Humans is able to like connect to people overseas also, which is really cool. So there's another individual on Kind Humans who I featured, and his name is Luke, and he is a really cool guy. He lives in the UK, and he is running a really cool business called We Are Revolution. So it's like an LGBTQIA plus Christian clothing. Yeah, so he makes merch and stuff like that. He was raised in a Christian home, and he was just bullied a lot. And he was like hiding his sexuality for a really long time. And he ended up in conversion therapy, and it just
That's nuts.
Yeah. And he said like it severed any connection that he wanted with God in the church. And he like cut off everyone from his life and bounced around from place to place, and then like wouldn't set foot in a church. And so he like went through years and years of anxiety and trigger warning, suicide attempts, and just like bad relationships. And so just through that was just like incredibly resilient and able to come to this place of knowing that God created him like uniquely and loved him uniquely. And he started therapy, and he's like 34, 35 now. So he's, started this really cool business, and, you know, just like, just doing it. And it's awesome.
What kind of feeling do you get when you do those?
Oh man, it's just like so hopeful. Like, I don't know these people, you know, like I would know a best friend, but just to feel like a sense of community. Previously I called myself like a walking oxymoron, like a Christian and a gay person, you know, like it doesn't mix very well usually. And so to understand that like there are other people out there that are like me and are happy and thriving, it makes you feel like you're a part of something good, and godly even, like something that could be a good thing in the world. Like, yeah, it just like, it's like family essentially. Yeah.
Right. The good side of God.
Yeah. Oh my God. I love that. The good side of God.
Yeah.
Ah. I might steal that from you.
Right.
I might steal that from you.
Copyright. Initiate.
For real.
Where do you think we're at, like, with mental health today?
I think that healthcare has got to get a whole lot better.
Yeah.
And I'm no expert in healthcare. I don't have health insurance right now, but the fact that I don't is a testament to the fact that it needs to get better. Yep. You know, I think that the way people think about mental health needs to change. I think that we need to... what is it? Destigmatize?
Yeah.
Just like, yeah. I think we should make it like of a positive thing. You know what I mean? I think people are really scared to be honest and authentic with their emotions. And I think that we should start places that are able to create a community or a safe space to, you know, affordably do things for people's mental health. 100%.
Yep.
Yeah.
Totally on board with that.
Right? Yeah.
What would be like a solution or a practical step for someone to improve their mental health?
I'm going to say again, just be gentle with yourself. Begin with God. And I'm so bad at this too. Like being gentle with yourself with everything you've gone through, and really realize that you have survived a lot. Like I said before, being alive is hard. Like regardless of what has happened to you. Like we all have shit that's happened to us. And there should be no value assigned to pain at all. Pain is valid no matter how bad, I'm putting air quotes on that, it is. You know, pain is pain, and it's valid, and your pain is valid no matter what has happened to you, whether it's, you've been traumatized by, the church and you've gone through conversion therapy, or you were abused as a kid, or you were, bullied, or, you just had a hard time.
Pain is pain is a good...
Pain, yeah. Pain is pain, and it's valid. It's all valid.
All right, we're going to wrap up here. I've got a fun 5. I think the last couple either intros or outros, I've said I'm trying to find somebody to talk about ducks with.
Ducks? Oh, let's do it. Let's do ducks.
I guess, let's do a duck segment. I don't know anything about ducks. Ducks are just, quacking around.
Yeah.
I always picture them as rubber ducks, though.
Really?
Yeah. If you're picture a duck, I picture a rubber duck.
A rubber duck.
That one, could you fight 10 duck-sized horses or horse-sized duck?
Oh my God, I love that.
I picture a giant rubber ducky, just chasing you.
Well, it's less aggressive. It's not a real duck. So
right.
You would definitely win that.
And then it's always funny, you see them in the water, they're just waiting. Their feet are actually moving really fast or whatever.
They're really stealthy, their little feet.
That's been Duck Corner. That's
Duck Corner. The Pond Cast.
The Pond Cast. So we'll get into the final 5 for real now. Number 1, what is your spirit animal?
Definitely a sea otter, because they're just very playful and... Yeah, they're just kind of goofy and yeah. Mm-hmm.
Supposedly they have generational rocks.
Oh my God, I love that.
Yeah, that they pass down, or they'll just carry it around and something like that.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh my God, that made me so happy just now. Oh my gosh, that's perfect.
Mm-hmm. The game that no one can beat you at.
I'm gonna say 2, either charades or if there's a game out there that exists about movie quotes, I got it.
Okay.
My brain is weird like that. I can quote movies like crazy.
If you got $1 million, what's the first thing you spend on? And other than debt and all that jazz,
yeah,
you're buying something for yourself or to do something cool.
Really, honestly, I would just find really cool organizations to fund. So Kind Humans, or maybe some other cool things that are just about to happen.
Right.
Yeah.
2020 goal or goals.
Definitely to release my second album. It's called Oceans Upstairs. So it's it's kind of the way the name came about was just all the crazy stuff that happens just in your brain. So it's upstairs, upstairs in your mind.
Right.
Yeah. And I kind of identify with oceans a lot.
Yeah, the music video potential.
Right. So expensive though.
Yeah, true. So I want to flood a house.
Right? Can we do that? How much would that cost?
$5?
Yeah.
Yeah. What is your favorite part of yourself?
I'm going to say how resilient I am. I've definitely overcome a lot. It's hard to recognize sometimes within myself, but I've overcome a lot, and I'm always trying to help people with the things that I've gone through, and that's definitely probably my favorite part of myself.
All right, now you're gonna pick a person, significant other, family member, whoever, just whoever you want, but you're shouting them out, you're pouring into them, encouraging them as much as you want. You can take as long as you want.
So I'm going to shout out my best friend Allie. I know she doesn't feel like it very often, but she is a pillar of strength. She's just the kindest, most generous, patient person I've ever met. She allows herself to make mistakes and she overcomes them. The kindness that pours out of her is just incredible. The grace that she has for people and her ability to understand that someone is going through something and not take offense, towards the way that they may treat her. She's still able to love them from afar or, close by, if they're being hurtful or anything like that. And she's also a writer, a really, really great writer. And she doesn't believe it sometimes, but she's so incredibly talented. And she's a photographer and she does all these cool, very interesting, wonderful things. And she's also just at the very beginning of, life is getting better, sort of, part of her life. And I'm just so excited to see where she takes it all and, where she ends up in the world. I've been joking with her that by the end of this year, she's not going to be in Indiana still. Just because I feel life is going to take her other physical, awesome places.
Shout out, Allie.
Shout out. Yep.
Sweet. Well, plug what you want to plug for, Kind Humans. How can people find you? Reach out.
Yeah. So Kind Humans is an Instagram page. We're working on a website right now. a group of people who just love you a whole lot, no matter who you are, what your sexuality is. And we also love God and believe that God loves you, regardless of anything else. But we're on Instagram at Kind Humans, and it's, let me look
You
it
got
up.
that? There's no underscores?
No, I don't have it. I'm going to look it up. No, I tried really hard. Kind_humans_. Yeah, it's a safe space for LGBTQIA Christians or anybody else who wants to check it out. For me, my music is under the name Kai, and I'm on Facebook, Instagram at...
How do you spell it?
Kai, Kai. Yeah, for Kai Wrote This, I actually have that. No underscores or anything. KAIWROTETHIS.
So Kai wrote this.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So
cool.
I post music snippets and stuff like that, teasers for my merch and all kinds of cool stuff.
Yay.
But yeah, and if they're interested in like my main page, like my positivity pep talks or whatever, it's _hi_it's_Kai.
There you go.
I know, it's ridiculous.
Underscore.
Yeah.
Underscore. Well, thanks so much for joining me.
Yeah, thank you so much for
you killed it.
Doing this. Oh my God. I'm just so honored and excited to be on this podcast and just to see everything that you're doing. It's awesome. Yeah, I really admire you, man.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Bye, guys.
Have a good night.
Hey everybody, this is Ryan from the Classic Buffalo Podcast. Wanted to take a second to talk about Anchor, how I'm actually making this podcast happen. Super happy that I'm partnering with them. So, Anchor is actually the easiest way to make a podcast. I've done my research. This is basically the best way. I promise. It's going to give you everything you need in one place for free, which is the best part. It's going to have tools, so you don't really need a fancy schmancy recording guy. Anchor's going to be helping you out there, and then they're going to distribute the podcast everywhere to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google, everything. And then you can also make money with basically no minimum listenership, which is kind of rare. So hop on Anchor as soon as you can. Thanks. I just got done talking with the wonderful Kai. Shout out to you, fam. I'm so glad to give you a space to talk about your story. And just wanted to reflect on a couple things that you said and just kind of what I empathized with. Number one, it meant a lot to kind of get another person who's in the LGBTQ community. As I mentioned earlier in the episode, that this has kind of been a point of curiosity for me. I've always wanted to learn more. I always want to be respectful, but I've never really had a lot of people that in my life, especially close ones, that have been in that community. So it's kind of hard to put it into practice necessarily. But for someone who would be in my life, how can I handle that situation? How can I support them? How can I use the right pronouns? What's all that process? And I think for some people that conversation, especially on a conservative level, can kind of be scary to have, or there's just a whole world that people don't understand. And so, it meant a lot for me, and hopefully for you, Kai, to kind of share, that world a little bit today. So, shout out to you. And you've been through a lot, some trauma and having to deal with sexuality and gender. Both of those things are very hard to deal with and have to figure out. And a lot of new things are coming your way. And I'm excited for you and just music going forward. And your job is going to be just continue to be so fruitful. Talk about a kind of funny little universe moment of the Titanic. Dun, 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 dun. My heart will go on. I'm not even sure. I know that's the song, but I don't even know if that's what's My Heart Will Go On. But I did it for you anyway. I know that was an embarrassing moment for me. But yeah, super happy on the transgender stuff to have talked about that and give a spotlight to that, as well as Kind Humans. It was really cool to find out more about that, and kind of it's always cool when you have what you're doing kind of has a reach outside of your state, and then not only that, but like out of the country. Like, that's nuts. And I know Kind Humans means a lot to you, Kai, and so I'm really happy that you have that in your life, and that also in the tough times that you have music for you. And there's just a lot of excitement that I felt when interviewing you, and just genuine curiosity, talking about my story off the podcast, and I can only just wish the best. And for you, the listener, I hope you were able to feel a little bit supported in some of the things that they were saying. Maybe you empathized with something. Maybe you were like, oh, I'm not the only one that felt that way. Maybe this podcast episode made you feel a little bit less alone. Or maybe you learned something, or maybe both. But and we got to talk about ducks. Yes! We talked about ducks finally. Duck Corner coming soon. The secondary podcast. Just kidding. But as far as me, the pop-up that I'm trying to do in May through Vintage Indie is should be getting the acceptance letter here in about a week or so. But pretty much been confirmed at this point that I'll have a store in May. And there's a lot of planning that goes into that, and I'm going to be running some mental health events, at these events, and I'm trying to still work on that, but it's a lot of exciting things that are coming soon for Classic Buffalo and Vintage Indie, my clothing company. And Vintage Indie is my very successful platform I have, or my other account that I have, and I've just been getting a lot of success and a lot of good things happening from it. But, I can't have a store and not do this, I have to find a way to incorporate this in my life and to raise awareness for mental health. And, right now, the best way I can do that is through this podcast and sharing everyday people's stories. But, long term, it's creating a very practical and helpful solution for people in the mental health world, so that you have more resources and tools. And, I have an idea and I'm working on it. So, and, I don't know, there's kind of these two icebergs that are coming together with the Classic Buffalo and my passion and my heart, and then Vintage Indie that's just doing well. And I think that both of those can come together. My 3-year anniversary was actually today. So happy 3-year anniversary to Vintage Indie. I created it in 2017. So, small insert celebration noise. But please stay tuned. I'll be in the Circle Center Mall. I know that, but the format of the actual mental health events, I'm still kind of working the kinks out of that. And if you're a counselor in the Indianapolis area by chance, or know somebody who's in that, I could use you for that. Kind of get a hold of me. If you would like to tell your story just like Kai did, please also DM me. We can talk about anything, shallow or deep. We're going swimming, as I say. Just another solid episode. A lot of really cool things that are coming for both me, Vintage Indie, and Classic Buffalo. So until next time, which will be next Monday, have a good one, guys. Bye.